On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about what are our alternatives when we're surrounded by so much untruthfulness. It doesn't do much good to continue pointing out things that are not true if there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And since it's Sunday, I thought maybe we'd talk a little bit about some of our religious leaders. And here's the Christian Broadcasting Network over here. And perhaps there is a higher authority to whom we can appeal. What is the problem? The problem is that the commissioners are now, for the first time ever, faced with people who are videotaping what they're doing and then playing it back, and they can't say, well, I never said that. Keith Heck tried that. I never said that. You put words in my mouth, and then we proved, of course, that we didn't. And so they're still operating by the old rules that all you need to do is simply deny that you said something bad. And I don't mean saying blue instead of green, that kind of stuff. I'm talking about, did you really have a cost overrun of $100,000 on the Dimmock Tower? The Courier's not going to print that. Are you interested in the fact that there's a cost overrun of $100,000 on the Dimmock Tower? The Courier thinks that you're not, because they're not even printing that.
I would think that would be interesting to people.
That's not a news story. What? It's been defined by the Courier as not a news story, so you're not going to get a chance to hear that. So here's something else that happened recently that I think that you ought to know about. Nobody else is talking about this. And once again, this was not in the Courier. Here's what I said on the last Wednesday weekly business session.
Dale Matthews, Grants Pass. Roger Brandt is one of our greatest natural resources in this county. I love this guy, and he's done so much work out at the IV. And I sat down with him before this, and I said, Roger, I'm going to have to oppose you on this grant. But I love what you're doing, and I'm going to donate $100 out of my own pocket, which compared to the salaries of the commissioners is pretty significant, as I make about 1/10 of what you do. Here's the problem. His group came forward and said, we want $33,000 to build a wheelchair ramp and some other things at a state park. And we want to use economic development money for that. Now, Commissioner Heck even said at that moment, well, I don't know if this is a bunch of hooey. It is. Now, $33,000 is magically transformed into $5,240. Know how precise that amount is, really. And it's going to create something like 200 full-time family wage jobs in its wake, not to build the wheelchair ramps. After they're built, it's going to generate over 200 jobs in the IV. They need jobs, but this is a bunch of hooey. No, it's not going to create 200 full-time family wage jobs after it's all built. This is economic development money. And if it's really true that you can invest $5,000 to $5,240 and end up with $1 million within 200 jobs and everyone marching in the streets, you ought to only do those projects. Stop everything else on this report that's never come from Commissioner Cheryl Walker. She promised us 6 months ago that we'd get a report about how this money would be spent, and we still haven't seen anything of it. Stop everything and invest only in these kinds of projects, because the return is fantastic. It's not only fantastic, it's impossible. We are not going to generate 200 full-time family wage jobs out of building a wheelchair ramp in a park. It doesn't have senior water slides. It's just a park. It's a very nice park, I'm sure, that almost no one's ever heard of, but great. If you spend the money on this, you'll be remembered forever. Not just for pushing on some kind of junk ordinances that nobody wanted in the first place, not for claiming that words were put into your mouth and it was proved that it was totally false, not for drinking and driving and blaming everybody else. You commissioners will be blamed for spending economic development money on something that's not going to be developing any economics. I love Roger Brandt. I want them to succeed. I'm going to give him money. You should not. Yes, sir.
Hello and welcome back. So this is the point. It's really, really simple sometimes, and that is it's just a bunch of hooey. It's simply not true. And everybody can see that it's not true. So what's at stake here? So they spent some money on a park, and who cares? The point is that they said that the reason for doing something was, the excuse was ludicrous. Now they feel that we should trust them with all kinds of other money because we always spend it wisely. This is the perfect example. No, they don't. And so this little tiny thing that was a lie, it was a lie, it's a lie. What else are they lying to us about, Mike?
Right, and what are they not lying to us about? Maybe a shorter list, but right. I mean, who cares about stuff like this? You would think a lot more people than just those people that were in the audience there, or who even are seeing your videos or hearing this broadcast. You would think that more people would be interested, and I kind of think they would be, but only the Courier is not reporting it, and no one else is talking about it.
Well, there has to be somebody that's doing. Oh, okay, and Bill Myers, right? There has to be somebody that's doing something. Let me give you an example of where I first went when I knew that there were problems that I could see. I went to this guy right here. This is Dennis Weber, and he's pastor of arguably the biggest, one of the biggest churches in our area, Parkway Christian Center. When I first got here, I know some things about television, as does Mike, and so I went to Parkway and I said, I would like to be going to a church, but I'd like to do more than just sit in a pew and be a consumer. I would like to contribute. And they said, oh, great. Well, how about if we make you one of our 2 directors of our television programming, because we put the sermons out, and they're wonderful sermons. They still are. It doesn't matter that this guy's not always told us the truth about other things. When he's talking about Jesus, brother, he's got it great. And I respect that about him. If he would stick to religion, I wouldn't have any objection. He's wonderful, wonderful on that. So they made me one of the 2 directors. Soon thereafterwards, I started working as a substitute teacher at the high school. And right away I could see, oh, no, not here too. There were problems. They were pulling in money that was supposed to go toward the course that I was teaching. And just before I say that, when I walked in the door, the very first thing that the principal, Aaron Anderson, told me, he said, here are your textbooks. The students weren't there yet. And there was all these photocopies. Photocopies. He said, well, yeah, what we did is we took a sample textbook that they sent us, and we photocopied it from cover to cover. And there are your books. And I said, well, that's illegal. How can I teach these students about copyright infringement by using an illegally copied book? Well, this is for a good cause. I said, of course it's for a good cause, but these guys make books. That's how they make their profits. And so if you're going to take their book that they sent you as a sample and you're going to copy it and give a free copy to every student, I can't use that. Well, what is it? It follows me around? I can't. I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. I couldn't do it, so I didn't have much of a future there. So I went to this guy. Not about that. And that was easily solved. I just didn't use those books. There was plenty that I could work with the students on and teach them how to do. And it turns out that the money that was coming in to the high school was supposed to go to things like buying new cameras, because they were pretty old and clunky, and buying videotape and that kind of thing. Well, these students were using videotape that was like 8 years old, and it was so old that the oxide coating was rubbing off of it, and they'd go out and shoot something, and they'd break their heart because they'd come back and these and you couldn't see the project that they work on. They're making the basket, the basketball, or they're making the basket in a basket making class, and it was erased because the tape was so old. So I went to the
You were using
administration
the same tape over and over and over again?
for 8 years. It wasn't so funny at the time. So these poor kids, they were like almost in tears. They'd worked on this project. It might have been their senior project, and that part was gone. Once in a lifetime. You can't say go play the basketball game again. Come on. So I went to the administration. I said, are we doing so bad that we don't have money to buy tape for the kids? And they made it very clear. Why were they so clear? I don't know. If they're going to cheat, don't tell anybody. And they said, well, we needed some new chairs. The old chairs that we had in the admin office were kind of uncomfortable, and we needed some new desks. And look at this nice mahogany desk or whatever it was. And I said, no, wait a minute. Isn't that money supposed to be spent on? So I took a job every night pumping gas to have enough money to buy tape for the kids. Grants Pass High School. So I went to this guy and I said, what should I do about this? I mean, this is obviously wrong, and they're laughing about it. There's nothing they're going to do. And the advice that Dennis Weber gave me, head of Parkway Christian Center, was, Jesus will solve everything. And if you simply, I think certainly that's a wonderful sentiment, and if you leave it up to God, why, all these problems will be resolved. And so, really,
You never have to face anybody with the truth about anything.
No, you never do. And so don't get involved in politics. Good Christians don't get involved in politics. And then he got appointed as a city councilor.
The irony.
So one more thing about this fellow, Dennis Weber, who has threatened me. Nice. For years since then, I've also pointed out that we all need to be careful about ballot initiatives that are in the front lobby of, let's say, a church or any group. If you're going to collect signatures, the law says, and I only got up periodically to talk about this because there were always some problems. People didn't understand what the rules were. So this is like, how many years was this? Just a second, I've got some notes right here. It was 5 years. And the video is called After Witnessing the Same Facts for 5 Years. After witnessing the same facts presented for 5 years, Weber suddenly claims it's all made up. Really? This guy? This religious leader to whom we can go if there's problems, like Simon Hare is drinking and driving, we think, and Cheryl Walker is making things up, and Keith Hack physically attacks me and then lies about it. All three of them have filed false police reports. All three of them have filed false police reports. That's respectful of police. And so you can go to people like this, and they're going to take a moral stand, and they're going to say, hey, lying and cheating is not good. I'm totally against that. Okay? So I said, as an example, I said, at Parkway Christian Center, I've seen this twice when I was going there, that they would put a ballot, an initiative signature sheet out in front and then walk away. And then people would sign it while there was nobody watching. I said, okay. Whether you like the state law or not, it's against state law. You can't do that. You have to be there to make sure that the proper people are signing this. You can't walk away and leave it. And I know it's been done at other churches. I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes, not only at Parkway, but also other places. And this is the fifth year that I brought this up. So Dennis Weber decides to get up and out of his seat as a city councilor because they have a rule they imposed on themselves that they can never answer anybody. They do it, but their rule says we can't. So when you get up and you say, please tell me the answer, they say, sorry, we cannot tell you that answer because our rules prohibit it. They're rules that you made up. Okay, at least it's not making up words like Cheryl Walker does. So He got up out of his seat as a city councilor, went around to the podium, and stood there as now he's a citizen. And he says, this stuff sounds like a good story, but it's just made up. And, you can say just about anything that you want that gets you attention. And, hey, wait a minute. This is the 5th year I've said this, and it's not jumping all over Parkway. It's just using here's a place that's a center of morality, and sometimes people goof up. And so just be careful. No, 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 this is... And afterwards, he said that if I ever mention it again, and it's true, it really did happen, that he would sue me, that he would come after me. He threatened me. What I said to him was very clear. I said, you know that it's true because I brought it to you personally. You can't say, well, I didn't know it was happening. We won't do it from now on. I brought it to you personally. You know that it's true. But I tell you what. Let's let God sort it out. Let's both go see him right now. Right now. And we'll see what he says to the two of us as we stand in front of him. You ready to go?
That's a scary, scary thought.
Doesn't mean I'd do anything to him. We could do it simultaneously. Yeah. You
Yeah.
ready to face the Lord and tell him what you have to say as a minister? One last thing about Dennis Weber, and I'm sure that there's other religious leaders in our area that do this. He tells me, you just saw me speaking at the weekly business session. I wasn't gnawing on the furniture. I wasn't using expletives. According to this guy, routinely, people like me go to these weekly business sessions and just every word and all these bad words come out of our mouth, and we're bringing the entire meeting to a screeching halt because of the terrible things that we're saying, expletives that need to be deleted. The only person that comes close to that is Keith Heck. But our religious leaders accuse me of saying it. Why? Because I question government would be my guess. Don't get involved in politics, and then they do. That's a little bit hypocritical. I'm sure that Dennis Weber is not the only one that falls into that category. But can we go to our religious leaders for when Keith Heck curses at people, when Simon Hare texts an 18-year-old, I got to get in your pants, or 26-year-old cousin, or when Cheryl Walker makes things up? Where are the religious leaders saying, at the very least saying, I don't think this is the best policy. Honesty is the best policy in this. Instead of doing that, they're saying that we're lying, literally lying to you. Why would they do that? Mike, why are they doing that?
I don't know.
Oh, man, you're the guy with the answers.
Well, I do not live behind their eyeballs. I can only speculate.
From the beach in Hawaii. Yes, that's a wonderful place.
Right now is drinking a cold Corona and speculating about people's motivations.
Let me give you an example of how bad it's gotten. Here is a little footage. We try to always get the facts 100% correct. When someone like Ed Bauer stands up and says, these are the best commissioners we've ever had, why all three of them are wonderful, and etc., he never offers any specifics. We offer specifics. We say, $5,240, and what are you doing with it? And we're very specific. There are people who get up and say, I don't think that you should be saying anything negative. This is Pat Bath, who's the secretary of the Democrat Party. People get up here and they say things that aren't positive. You should only be allowed to say positive things. What country did you grow up in? I mean, it doesn't mean that you got to be nothing but negative, but it's not allowed to say anything negative. Keith Heck has now been saying, who has something positive to say? Hey, Keith, I got something positive for you, bud. Quit. Leave office. That's very positive.
Yeah, that whole thing just gets under my skin every single time I hear it, and I just don't I don't know what they're thinking, because this is a country founded on dissent, and the idea that we should only be able to don't say anything that might get under somebody's skin. Don't do that.
It's bad enough that we're held responsible for what we say. I'm ready for that. But I don't want this guy continuing to tell people that we're running around the room going whoop whoop, and that we're yelling out expletives, and that they have to stop us at all costs. This is simply not true. The only time the police were called was when Cheryl Walker was making up a rule, and the police still laugh about that. They see me and they laugh. They say, "Hey, Dale, you got a dangerous camera." You know, they know it's ridiculous. Remember the lap rules? You must keep that camera in your lap. The rules don't say that. The rules never said that. And a state law, oh, not that law again. Yeah, the thing that they swore by the Holy Bible that they were going to uphold, and it says in there, you know, that there's nothing in there that would restrict one's free speech except don't yell fire in a crowded theater or whatever. Anyway, here's the point at which it's gotten at. They can't catch us saying things that are stupid. So here's Cheryl Walker with her remedy to that situation. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Mr. Matthews was again bringing up the issue, which has come up almost every single week now for probably 6 weeks that I can recall, in regards to the county providing printed documents. I'm going to quote Mr. Matthews here, quote, "We are slow learners," end quote.
Good. I never said that. So to be absolutely sure, I went back and looked at 6 months of meetings. That took a little while. I've never said anything close to that.
Oh, now, come on.
Now,
surely you said that and you just don't remember.
I said that we are slow learners. Isn't it more likely that I would say it the other way around? But I admitted that we are slow learners. I never did that. Now, this is Cheryl Walker. If they cannot catch you and saying something stupid, instead they make up something that you said and then laugh about that. What? This is the best that they can do? Is this the best that we can do with this kind of people? Where's the moral outrage from our religious leaders about Simon Hare and sex texting? And how did he get home? Did he drive himself home? What do you think?
Well, I think personally that I suspect that Simon's not going to church. And so he doesn't have a personal relationship with a pastor or something that may give him advice about what to do. And I guess they don't feel, publicly responsible for what goes on in the commissioner's office, and they don't feel like it's necessary or it's their responsibility to go down there and have a talk with somebody downtown that they don't know. I'm guessing, of course.
Simon has made a big deal of pointing out in the past that he goes to churches sometimes and that they've been anointing him with oil. Really?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a bunch of problem with religious extremists, not in Grants Pass, so I don't know, maybe there's some of that, but we've got religious extremists in the world. What does the president want to call them? Bad boys that every once in a while goof up, whatever excuse he wants to make for them. And it's often said, well, why don't the religious leaders of the Muslim faith, why don't they step up and denounce these things? Well, actually they are, and very few people in America are paying any attention, but there have been a number of times, if you ever watch any other press other than these guys, if you watch the BBC, for example, it's on there all the time that you may not want to believe that. We're Americans. We don't want to believe that they're doing the right thing in any other place but here.
You, Dale. I don't go crazy there, because the vast majority of Muslims do not say anything. They don't utter an opinion on this, and I think greatly out of fear. Now, there are some, the president of Egypt, for one, who is, that's a majority Muslim nation, and he is speaking out against some of the stuff that they're doing. There are some prominent ones, but by no means is this a majority.
Okay, all right. So, but here's where I was actually trying to get. When we've got Keith Heck that's just flat out lied to us. I mean, we have it on tape. I mean, he says, you put words in my mouth, and then we prove that we didn't do that. When you've got Cheryl Walker that reads from a piece of paper and says, the rules say this, and that that's not what the rules say. When you've got Cheryl Walker's quoting a citizen from her lofty position as a commissioner, well, you said this stupid thing. That's not what she said, but you said this thing, and it was stupid, and that's totally false. And when you've got Simon Hare with collusion with Jim Moore at the newspaper saying everything has been forgiven by the Deakins family, no, that's not true. And so and they're covering up. They're saying we don't want to tell you about the $100,000 cost overrun. Let's not tell the public. And the courier's helping them and keeping that secret from the public. You only hear from us. The facts are the facts. When you've got all these things happening, is there not a single religious leader who could step forward in our community and say, you know, we've got a little bit of our own little moral crisis here, where we've got three people who think that they can get away with quoting citizens completely pulled out of some place that we don't talk about, and it's completely false. You know, we've got to turn over a new leaf. It's a new year. Can we please just not live and have a little bit of morality here? Where are our morality leaders?
Yeah, you might be wishing for a dream that'll never come true there, Dale. I don't know about that. I would like to think that that they cared about that, but I got to tell you, I mean, the number of people that are even paying attention to what's going on in the weekly business session, that's a small group.
What are you saying? I wasn't paying attention. What did you just say? That happened.
Yes.
That happened. That actually happened at a meeting at Cave Junction. I went to the meeting, and I was the only person for the quarterly town hall that's hosted by the commissioners. The only person. I'm there with a camera, and I said to them, "May I ask a question?" They were very reluctant. There's just me. They were very reluctant. Oh, okay, all right. What is it? And you've probably seen this tape. And I said, there are a number of people in the community here in Cave Junction that have said that they probably wouldn't be coming here tonight, and it kind of looks like that's the case, because they were concerned that perhaps you weren't paying attention to them. And Keith Hick, quick as this, I mean, he was very fast on this. He said, "What's that you say?" "I wasn't paying attention."
Okay. I was wondering what you were doing there, Dale, but yes, that's a good point. Well, that's Keith Heck, though. I mean, that just is another.
But these other guys they're leading a new moral revival, right? Well, what we need tents, and we're going to bring everybody back to Jesus, and we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to set a moral tone in our community, and it's going to go actually outside of KJO and the Rotary Club meetings, and we're going to set a standard. I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. We're going to join with you in that. We're not going to join that Dale Matthews. He's a terrible person, but it's a good sentiment, and so we're not going to tolerate lying and cheating anymore. Wouldn't that be refreshing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to end up this show, I've got one more piece of tape for you. Just thought it might be interesting to play back little pieces of tape for you. And here is what I hope is you will find a fair summary of the way that things could be. Mike?
I've been publishing a little monthly newspaper since 2009 called First Friday, and what we try to do every time an election comes around is we take the voters pamphlet and get it out there to people on First Friday a month before the voters pamphlet comes out. There's not enough room in the many pages of the Daily Courier, but our little 4-page newspaper always finds room. So I went to a meeting of the City Council last month, and I was talking about the upcoming election and how you can get information about what's going to happen and why we should vote in this election. And the mayor stopped me in mid-sentence and said, "What does this have to do with Grants Pass?" And I said, "Well, you will get a chance to vote on these ordinances as well, pro or con." "No, we won't. No, we won't." "Yes, you will." "No, we won't. No, we won't. No, that's just the county." I said, "Mr. Mayor, yes, you will." "No, we won't." So I said, well, I'll check with Art Harvey again and get the answer to you. So the next day, I saw Art Harvey at one of our meetings. And I said, well, here's what the mayor said. He was somewhat alarmed. He wasn't very anxious to set the mayor straight, however. And fortunately for all of us, Mr. Heck sent an immediate email to the mayor explaining that, yes, we all can vote in this election. Whether the ordinances affect the people in Grants Pass or not, yes, you can vote on them. Afterwards, I got several city council members, 4, who said, yes, you were right. Yes, I knew it when you said it. Now wait a minute. So the mayor stops me while I'm trying to explain what the rules are, and they've got their legal counsel there, and they've got somebody from KJO there, and they've got somebody from the newspaper there, and they've got all these city councilors, they've got the city manager, all these people gathered around whose salaries could maybe top $1 million. And a lot of people knew that I was right. Why didn't they say anything? So I got an apology from the mayor, which doesn't do me much good, of 11 seconds after 2 weeks. Now, would you think that once they were set straight, they would call an immediate press conference? Hey, we just want to be sure everybody knows. They don't even need to point the finger at the mayor. Just say, hey, we need everyone to know this. I've had 2 people that I've seen in the grocery stop me and say, what's this? I think it's in my ballot that I can't vote on this? Because the mayor told them they couldn't. Maybe they believe the mayor when he tells them things. Some people do, I suppose. But where was everybody else? Rika Brown was in the audience. She followed me. Why didn't she get up and set aside her thing about pulling weeds and talk about, yes, you can? I went and talked with KJO. Why didn't he get up? They're communications people. The newspaper guy was there. He could have gotten up. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, yes, you can't vote. Nobody did. Why are people not stepping forward? We can do that here too, you know.